Just imagine you are a super grandmaster 2600 rated player. You're coming to the board chess championship. First round, well, you want to crush everybody because you're young, you're super talented, you are just incredibly strong. The first round, you're playing as white against an 8-year-old boy. He makes a brilliant move, sacrifices, and gives you a checkmate. I mean, how devastating that might feel. That is so far the main sensation of the World Rapid Chess Championship happened today. This game will just blow your minds completely. What's up, chess player? Welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster, the place where you can improve every aspect of your chess game. And let me show you this amazing game between Jakhongir, Vakhidov, and Jakhongir. Hopefully I pronounced the names correctly, excuse me if I'm not. The game started with c4, c6, and our golden star, 8-year-old, he plays as black. d5, well, the normal Slav defense, the exchanged variation, nothing seems like this game is going to be crazy, but believe me, it's going to be crazy. So far so good. Bishop goes to d3, bishop goes to g4, and white plays f3. Well, that weakens the king a little bit, but on the other hand, that helps white to go forward in the center and be very active. Of course, the move e4 is on white's agenda, but it's not that simple to make it possible because d4 is hanging, so white has to prepare it. e6, g4. Well, it turns out white even is not interested to play e4, which is normally the main idea. Instead, he plays g4. I mean, he's playing against a very little boy. He just wants to destroy him, just not given any chances, go for the attack immediately, and you can even see the engine confirms that is the good way to go. Bishop e7, well, black just doesn't care. He just develops the pieces. He learned what is important in chess. Development is the key to success, so he is developing all of his minor pieces here. Knight goes to e2 and castles. I mean, make sure your king is secure, although not in this game because, well, that is going to be something special. King goes to f2. White says, well, I don't need any castle. I just want to attack on the king side, and I also don't want to castle queen side because there, well, the c file is open, the king might not be that secured, and also king f2 is just the fastest way to connect my major pieces and go all in into the attack. So the game starts with an incredible event here. White is just dominating on the king side, ready to smash, but black is defended incredibly well. And that is incredible about this 8-year-old boy because he just doesn't care. He is not afraid and he's just doing the right thing. Knight to e8, a move back, a retreating move is always more difficult to make if that's the right move, but he's going for it. So let's see, h4. He goes knight to d6 here, remaneuvering his knight, and this knight will play a huge role in this game. I mean, that is incredible. a3, just a normal move to make sure that nothing comes there on b4, and black plays f5. Well, he says, guess what? I don't want to wait until you come and, well, just crush me on the king side, deliver me a checkmate. I'm gonna be the one to attack, because guess what? Also have your king on f2 just seemingly secured here, but once I open up the f file, that's going to be a target. So that's exactly what black is doing here. White plays g5. Of course, white doesn't want to open up the g file. That is a very instructive moment. If you have your king opposed to your opponent's rook, just never ever open that file. And of course, g5 is the way to go for it. Now rook goes to c8. Notice that black is developing all of the pieces. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, if you're an 8-year-old star, if you're a super grandmaster, or if you're Magnus Carlsen. Development is the key. You always want to develop every single one of your pieces, not just a handful of them, but literally everyone. You want to find the most active squares, like this knight on f6. Yes, it was developed, but that wasn't a great position for the knight because those pawns were coming. And now it's on d6, in the center of the board, controlling so many squares, and it's about to make a brilliant move later on. And so you want to make all of your pieces as active as possible, and you want to do it as fast as possible. So now white plays queen to c2, and black plays knight a5, opening up the rook. Well, it's great to have your rook on the open file, but it's even better to have your rook against your opponent queen. This knight on c6 also right now doesn't have an ideal spot, and he is remaneuvering it to a better and more active square on c4. That is why white plays b3. So you can see that chess is always a battle of two players. You never play alone. So many lower rated players also forget about that. So often they are thinking, okay, I'm here with my plans, with my ideas. I don't really care what my opponent does, but that is so often the number one mistake inexperienced players are making that cost them the game. So don't ever do that. Always think about your opponent, about his dreams, his ideas, his threats, his hopes. What is he up to? And of course, white is paying attention to that, playing b3, stopping this knight from coming to c4. Bishop e8, well, the idea is to somehow connect this bishop to the defense, because the bishop is not doing much on d7, but you see, chess.com is not a big fan of this move. But also remember, that is a rapid chess. That is not a classical one. You have 15 minutes plus 10 seconds. You don't have a lot of time to think, but black is playing incredibly fast. He has here more than 8 minutes, whereas white has a little bit more than 1 minute. I mean, that is crazy. So what's going to happen here? Queen to b2, another best move. I mean, he's super grandmaster, 2600 rated player. He won the Olympiad with the team of Uzbekistan, incredibly strong. Jakhongir, Vakhidov, and black plays here b5. He just doesn't care about titles, about ratings. He says, I need my counterplay. I need to be active. I'm going to just go forward and destroy you. So white plays Rxc1, finally finishing the development. a6, just supporting the pawns there. Bishop goes g3. And here is the moment comes where black makes a brilliant move. Feel free to stop the video for a second and see if you can find it, because that is something absolutely astonishing here. For an 8-year-old, I mean, I am never trying to repeat that, because knight e4, how on earth? I mean, that is incredible. The knight is hanging, and yes, you can't take it with the pawn. I mean, you can, but afterwards, f takes e, discover check, and the bishop is hanging here, and you're getting back, and huge position. It's basically close to winning here for black. But white could have just played king to g2. That was the best move not to lose the patience. Instead, well, I suppose white was just completely shocked with this move. It's not what you expect when your king is so secure here. Remember what I told you about this file that you don't want to open up where your king stands? Well, black is sacrificing the knights to achieve that, and they succeed with that. Because white plays bishop e4, but it's still not great because the file is going to be opened. White decided to play knight e4, once again to block the file, and if you take here on f3, then you're kind of once again closing this very important file with your own pawn, and white will use this pawn as a shield. That is why king now is once again in safety, and moreover, white has his knight takes e6 with f4. So that's not an option for black. Instead, after knight f4, black played back knight to d7 just to support the pawn. Although you can see that going back and forth is almost always not a great strategy in chess. Black had even a better option to play bishop d6, just ignoring this threat, because there would be rook f3, absolutely devastating check, and the bishop is hanging. I mean, that is crazy. But bishop d7 just to support for now, pawn takes, and now the file is really open, so the knight is pinned. So that's actually really great for black, even if they lose that pawn. But that is also a very dangerous diagonal to open up there. If knight takes, there would be bishop c6 controlling here everything, and notice that white doesn't have light squares bishop. So it's incredibly dangerous to do that for white. And now black plays e5. Basically, the only real mistake that black did here, because from a human perspective, this move really makes sense. If white takes, which is the best move, then you open up the d file, you open up the diagonal, and black wants to attack. And he also opened up this bishop, so afterwards the bishop goes to g4, covering the d1 square. I mean, seems like a very reasonable way to go on, especially in the rapid chess when you want to create as many threats for your opponent as possible. So let's see what happens here. Objectively, that was a mistake, because white is, I mean, I wouldn't call it a blunder. Chess.com says it's a blunder, but he definitely sacrificed the pawn. He definitely saw that it's hanging, but he decided to go for it no matter what, just to open up the position, because he has a pair of bishops. That is, by the way, the use of one of the very important principles. If you have two bishops advantage, you need to open up the position as much as possible, because then your bishop is your bishops are going to be open here. This one, that makes perfect sense. But objectively, white pieces are very active. They have an extra pawn. That is why they have the advantage here. But it didn't help, because guess what? Black continued creating threats. Queen goes to d7, king h2. I mean, when you play a real game, you have like 25 seconds. Now they both are playing pretty much on the increment. 15 seconds for black, 25 seconds for white. And this king on h2 is not very secured. So that is the problem. That is why you have this danger. e6, queen goes to b7. The rook on h1 is still hanging. White doesn't care. White takes on c8 first and plays rook c8. Well, the more pieces you exchange, the simpler it should get for white, because they have an extra pawn and they just should deal with all of these threats. So rook takes, queen takes, bishop d6. Well, the bishop is really great here, controlling this diagonal at the same time, controlling the key e7 square. White plays queen d2, knight c6. Well, the knight was doing anything on c6 at all, but now it could go all the way to g4 or to f3, where the knight will be just a monster. So that is what black is trying to do. Knight f6. Now, white sacrifices a knight. I mean, that's game. That is truly amazing game. So many sacrifices here. The bishop is hanging on d6. So basically, white is continuing the idea to exchange as many pieces as possible, because then the checkmate for white wouldn't be possible, and this pawn will be a huge factor. So let's see. Well, black has to take. Queen takes d6, and now takes on g5, creating yet another threat. Now white is making a mistake, because this knight to d5 move seems like an incredible one. I mean, you're going towards f6, you're supporting your e pawn, the knight is in the middle of the board. Why on earth can it be bad? But it gives black some chances to create an attack. And black, I mean, 8-year-old, but he uses all of white mistakes and he goes for the counter threat. Queen goes to g7. Now he's threatening to go queen to b2, which would be absolutely devastating for white. White played here bishop to f2, trying to physically stop the second rank check there, and well, make sure that if you play queen to b2, then the queen is kind of offside here and the attack is coming, and also white can just play king to g3 and go on with the king. I mean, I can take on h4, but you go even further to f4, and the problem is if you take the bishop here, your queen doesn't participate in the defense. That means that there is a knight, a pawn, and a queen here attacking the naked king. That doesn't work that way. And also the king is actually a huge attacking piece, controlling all of those squares, which leads to a checkmate here. I mean, that is just an amazing variation. That is why white played that move. Bishop f2, probably anticipating something like that, but that is not what happened. Black takes on h4 instead, which is a great move, and threatens queen g2 check. The queen is attacking not only diagonally, but also along the g file. That is just a too strong of a piece. And this position is completely winning for black now. White plays knight f4, trying to, well, still cover this key g2 square, stopping the checkmate in one. But now queen goes to b2, because the knight went back. The knight is not that active anymore, so no knight f6 check, and also the pawn is already on h4, which means king to g3 is not a possibility anymore. White plays knight h3, putting the knight all the way back, but trying to stop the checkmate. That is, of course, the key here. And black plays queen to g2 back, creating yet another checkmate threat. And the moves are repeating itself. I mean, black has here 14 seconds on the clock. White has 40 seconds. Well, black is playing 8-year-old boy against a super grandmaster. He's just way out of his league. And he has a way to make a draw here, just repeating moves back and forth, but has absolutely no way to stop it. But guess what? He doesn't want a draw. That is the beauty of those very strong talents, very strong stars. I mean, you can see, you can feel that he's gonna become a superstar, because he's not going for a draw. He's playing queen a1 and he wants to checkmate that super grandmaster. And he has every right to do that, because there is basically nothing white can do against it. He can play knight g2, which he does to stop the queen h1 directly checkmate, but here this queen comes to f1, and even though the king on g8 is completely naked, there are absolutely no checks, and that is why black just crushes in this position. Knight takes, Now queen takes f2 wins the bishop here, and well, you should still be careful not to somehow allow your opponent to give any checks, but in this case it's just a checkmate in a few moves. King g3, queen g1, king goes to h3, and now bishop g4, checkmate on the board. 2000 rated 8-year-old boy crushes the super grandmaster 2600 rated Olympic champion Jakhongir Vakhidov. I mean, that is something special. Roman Shogdzhiev. Remember this name, please, because he literally has an Instagram page which says on the way to become a world chess champion. And I can see it, I can feel it. That's gonna be something special. So please share with me in the comments what you think about this guy. In this video, you're gonna see an incredible game that another 8-year-old, but this time girl, has played against Grandmaster, showing absolutely incredible chess understanding. I mean, this generation is absolutely impossible.